Hi and welcome to NJT's Wycombe Wanderers Plus, episode 22. And we've been doing this 22 weeks, Kieran. How about that, mate? And,
Too long.
And this is the week that Wycombe won their 7th game. And this afternoon, we win our 8th game, do we? But we'll come to that in just one moment. Also, Wycombe actually played a back three, which I've been screaming for quite a while. Obviously, it's only suitable for certain games. It's also the week, talking of three, it's also the week that Fulham lost their 3rd chance of getting out of the bottom 3. How about that? 3-3-3. Now,
there's only two things for a fullback. You're either a failed winger or a failed centre-back.
Thanks for that. I was neither.
Which were you?
Just failed.
You grew up as a centre-back, didn't you?
I grew up as a centre-back, yeah.
No one wants to be a fullback as a kid. No one wants to grow up and be a Gary Neville.
Don't want to look like him.
You've nailed that, by the way.
Revamp of Champions League yet again. So that is where actually I'm going to start, because this is real just seconds. And I've got to touch this point because I need to apologise. Firstly, because last week I said, no problem, Wednesday it gets discussed and is sorted. There is no problem, it definitely will be sorted. Wrong. How could I possibly think that UEFA and the ECA would actually come to any sort of decision? The ECA is the 240 clubs, top. I mean, this includes teams from England and Latvia. So depending on what you mean on top, depends what you mean by football. I would think Holmer Green are higher than Latvia. On the other hand, we did watch Hazelmere the other day.
It wasn't great.
No. What happened? Well, first of all, I've got to say a slight revamp on the way the game is played, where I said the winners play the winners, losers play the losers. They've come to a slight change on that and did agree. And this is what happens is every team will get, what do they call it? Sort of given a who's best and who's not so best. So
seeded.
What?
They're seeded.
They're seeded. That's the word I was looking for. I knew I should have written it down. They get seeded 1 to 36, wasn't it? 34. Yeah. Can't remember.
36.
And then you play, for instance, if you happen to, but let's say you're seeded 3rd or 6th or 11th, you will play team seeded 1, 4, 7, 10, 14, 18, 22, 26, 30 and 34. So you will play all down those seeds, starting at the top, where you play a team from each seeded bit. So you'll play the best and you'll play the worst. It doesn't change. Those games are sorted at the beginning. So depending on where teams move in that table won't make any difference. Those games, those 10 games that you play are already sorted. And then this is where it gets really daft. This is where it gets. Now, this is what they did agree on. Okay. They agreed that the first 8 go through. The teams that come 9th to 24th go into a 2-round knockout competition, so that 16 teams go in and only the bottom 8 get knocked out at that stage. Meaning, for any decent team to get knocked out of the Europe of this competition is virtually nil. There will be 224 games, not 120. So extra 100 games. So this was sort of decided. That seeded way of playing came to a tick from UEFA and a tick from the ECA. Problem was a couple of things, and this is where there's 10 teams from England in this, by the way, the ECA. And there were couple of things that it didn't get through for. One is that big argument about the two places that will be based on pedigree. Teams from Latvia and Everton weren't happy, for instance, because if Everton finish above Liverpool, Liverpool get in.
Makes the league pretty much pointless, doesn't it? Apart
It's
from who
making
wins
it
it.
pointless. And so all the teams, apart from those top teams that keep getting in, year out, weren't happy with that because it almost felt like it was pushing them away. And the other problem was they brought a new idea in. These top teams brought their new idea in, which was they would decide on the selling and marketing of this European Championship, not UEFA. They were saying to UEFA, sorry, we're going to decide that. We're going to sell it. We're going to deal with the TV companies, not you. And that was a new one. And it was that really tripped them up. And UEFA said, sod off. You're not having that.
That won't get decided for goodness knows how long, will
No,
it?
they've got to. There's a date on it. It's got to be decided. Sure,
Yeah, they can put a date on it.
Football. They need the TV to
They can
decide.
put a date on it, but doesn't mean it will happen.
Well,
I get it.
April the 19th is next. And what I'm not going to say is they will definitely sort it out by April the 19th. I made that mistake last week in presuming that you could count on football teams doing what they're supposed to do.
Absolutely not. It doesn't work like that, unfortunately.
That's enough of that. Next.
There's only two things for a fullback. You're either a failed winger or a failed centre-back.
Thanks for that. I was neither.
Which were you?
Just failed.
You grew up as a centre-back, didn't you? You were a
I grew
centre-back
up
to
as a
start.
centre-back, yeah.
No one wants to be a fullback as a kid. No one wants to grow up and be a Gary Neville.
Don't want to look like him.
You've nailed that, by the way.
Wycombe won. Wycombe won.
We won 1-0 against Blackburn.
We won one.
Lovely.
Oh, wow. Did I enjoy that game or what?
Well, you must have done because, well, for one thing, I was there to watch it with you for once.
Yeah. You're talking of which, you owe me a £5. No, it was a home game. That's all right.
What did I owe you a £5 for?
I have to pay £10 for the away games.
Oh, yeah, of course. No, it's true. But I did win a £5 from that Blackburn game, so I can pay you back using that.
You can pay me for today's.
Yeah, I can. But to be fair, Wycombe looked decent. We didn't look bad.
Don't sound so surprised.
No, the thing with it was that we were definitely deserved winners. There's no doubt about that. Whether that was down to us creating a load of chances or Blackburn being rubbish, it was more Blackburn not being very good. I couldn't think of. I think they maybe had one clear-cut chance that came right at the end, but apart from that, they did not create a lot. Whereas
most of these things you start with, were Blackburn rubbish or were Wycombe good? I mean, but it doesn't matter. So I'm not going to ask that, in fact, of this game, because it doesn't matter. I think every game is a bit of both, and one has an effect on the other. I mean, if one team is rubbish, the other can be rubbish. So you've still got to up your game, whether the other team are rubbish or not.
In saying that, we identified clear positives with how Wycombe played as opposed to Blackburn. For example, Jacobson and Onyedinma down that side, pretty much flawless, I thought, throughout that game. Yeah, couldn't be at fault. No. And Onyedinma scoring just kind of put the icing on the cake for them. I did just see before we started filming that they both got in the team of the weeks for the EFL.
Did they? Good.
I think that just kind of proves that point. And the defence as well was just pretty solid throughout. Didn't really feel under pressure watching it. Didn't really feel as if Blackburn are getting closer. There was none of that. It was
there was no worries, were there?
No, I mean, I don't know how much possession we had, but for the first half at least, it seemed as though we had a decent amount more than Blackburn. Well, we were actually doing stuff with the ball as opposed to what they were doing. And yeah, maybe up front, not too much happens, to be fair. It was more of a midfield battle for us to try and create those chances, but we take those. We
Now,
definitely do.
Playing the back three, I've been screaming for that a little bit this year. Now, I do understand. I mean, next week I will do a tiny 5-10 minute slot on the differences in what the team needs to be able to play that back three, because you can't just choose, we'll play a back three. You need certain players with certain different skills, and I think quite often people forget that it takes something else. I mean, the first thing it's always going to do is bring your goalkeeper in. He's going to have to be a member of the back line. He is going to have to use his feet a few times, which is why Pope for England is a dodgy one, because if England ever play that back three that Gareth, whatever his name is, likes, then Pope is going to be absolutely useless. He can't use Pope if he swaps it for a back three. But now there is somebody that comments about Stockdale and our other goalkeeper. So his names are atrocious. I'm awful, aren't I?
You're not great, no. You're pretty poor. It's Stockdale and Allsop.
Also, yeah. Now, I don't think there is much difference between the two in goal. I have to be honest. I have a difference of opinion with this bloke, and that's fine. I don't have a problem with that. That's good. I mean, that's why we have this, great for people's opinions. I don't have a problem with having a difference of opinion. But which one would be more suitable for playing the back three, do you think?
I'd argue probably Allsop. Maybe it's just because Stockdale, I doubt, is kind of used to that style of play. A little bit
good at
less.
passing the ball out, though, isn't he? He's
Stockdale's
quick. I mean, Allsop is wasting time from minute naught. I mean, I think Allsop is a better saver of the ball, diving up into the top right-hand corner. But Stockdale, I wonder about playing the all-round footballer, which you would need in a back three.
Well, I'm not sure as to whether we would, because it's not like we'd pass it around the back three that much. I don't think. I'm not sure whether a goalkeeper being good with their feet is all that important for us, to be honest with you.
Even if we play with that setup, which we played against.
I don't remember Stockdale, having to pass around the back that often, if I'm honest. And I would argue that Allsop would be as competent as Stockdale would be in that scenario as well.
Neither panic, do they?
Neither panic. Neither ever seem to look stressed or anything like that.
Which is good, because there's a lot of goalkeepers that are.
Yeah, they try and do it so quickly that they end up cocking it up, whereas Stockdale and Allsop take their time. Maybe sometimes it's a bit hot in our mouths for the fans watching at home. And as you say, both are very competent, both are pretty even. But I think Allsop pulls off a few more spectacular saves, whether that's just...
He's had to. He's had to. Stockdale, I mean, Wycombe's defence, I mean, we have had... this sounds so dodgy. We've got a game in shortly, because we're recording this, by the way, everybody, on Monday morning. This is, for us, this is 11 a.m. So, we haven't played this afternoon yet. So we're praising Wycombe up, and we're just about to lose 7-0, and Stockdale will stick 3 of them in his own net.
Then he'll end up playing Allsop for some apparent reason instead, won't he?
Yeah. Interesting. Isn't it easy being a fan rather than a manager?
What I found interesting about our back if you want to call it back three, back five.
Be careful here, and you keep shaking your camera, mate.
That's your table's fault.
Oh, is it?
I'm barely even touching it.
Oh.
But was that we played only one centre back, actual centre back as such. Jacobson and Grimmer made up the rest of the back three. And I found that quite interesting because you'd normally have your three centre backs and make your full backs the wing backs. But we used Onyedinma and McCarthy.
We used two full backs as centre backs.
Yeah, which I mean, they're probably a little bit less used to having to do that, but I just found that interesting because that's not normally what you would do. You'd normally have maybe, I suppose, Tafazoli and Stewart. Tafazoli wasn't on the bench again, was he?
No,
I don't know what's happened to him. But then we don't get any information, do we?
No information. I can't find it anywhere on any betting shops or anything.
No, we're the only team who does that, aren't we?
I think so.
We just don't have a clue whenever like Dominic
I know
may have broken his leg.
I know Gape's out, but that's obvious.
Yeah, someone may have broken their leg and we wouldn't even know.
No,
but still.
But what the playing? I mean, we will do this bit on the back playing a back three. I mean, that's something that came over from Italy a few years ago, and what it does mean is far more concentration from everybody and far more fitness. And I notice he's decided to bring it in now. They've had their break for a little while, a bit of a break and time to learn, because if you've got to learn that is not easy. I want to say again, it's not something you just pick and choose. That you've got to concentrate and you've got to learn it. Everybody has to know their place, otherwise that does not work. And that's what they did. Now we can use it this afternoon against Rotherham. I wonder whether we can use it against Luton. I'll do a little bit on Luton in a sec. And then I don't think we use it against Swansea, for instance. I don't think it would work against Swansea.
I think you'd get overrun in midfield a bit.
I think we'd get overrun, yeah. So that was good. I mean, I've predicted 1-0. This is dodgy because this is afterwards. I mean, everybody's predicting Rotherham to win 1-0. And it's the first game, as I said before, it's the first game Rotherham are favourites throughout the whole of the season. I think Wycombe, it was sort of a draw. Wycombe, Rotherham, that was, the bookies made that a draw. There wasn't a favourite. So this time is the only game Rotherham are favourites. How about that? Is that a good thing for Wycombe?
Is that deservedly so? I wouldn't have said so. I mean, I don't think it matters as to whether we're underdogs going into the game. I think both teams are just going in there saying we have to win this game to, kind of stand any chance of staying up. In terms of a prediction, I think it's a bit difficult to say. I don't think it'll be high scoring. I think there'll be 3 goals or less. Probably it may even be like a 1-1 or something, which wouldn't be good for either team. But I'll be optimistic and say 2-1 to Wycombe. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I've put 1-0. I've put 1-0. Yeah. Yeah. Now my problem today is my pad. I'm going to be doing this the whole time. It's a small pad, and I have to keep turning the pages over. It's so I don't get lost. It's a bit like doing a sermon, I think. Okay. Hi guys. Next, I'm not advertising the shop, by the way. Do that. I need to do it a bit slower.
There's only two things for a fullback. You're either a failed winger or a failed centre-back.
Thanks for that. I was neither.
Which were you?
Just failed.
You grew up as a centre-back, didn't you?
I grew up as a centre-back, yeah.
No one wants to be a fullback as a kid. No one wants to grow up and be a Gary Neville.
Don't want to look like him.
You've nailed that, by the way.
There you go.
Really good.
Yeah, I thought you'd like that. Okay, next quick 5 minutes. I thought I'd sort of go through tiny little bits about championship football, not looking at the scores. We almost know who's likely to go up. And as we get nearer these teams, I can just say a little bit more about them as the season slows up a bit. I just have to say, I did see the Brentford game, thought they didn't look very good. I think they're bottling it myself. I mean, I think they're in the playoffs, but are they going to bottle it again? Same as Swansea. I was so sure those two teams, but
it's very easy to bottle it in the playoffs.
It is so big, so big. Okay, so what I want to do is just look at sort of 4 or 5 teams per week till we get to the end of the season, and just say what I think, what I've seen, what I like and what I dislike about them. So what we do is I'll start in roughly the middle of the table and work my way up and down each week. Okay? So here's 5 teams from the middle. Okay? We'll start with Millwall. Well, that's in the middle. That's okay. But they've had lots of drawn matches. That's been their fault, Millwall. Have you got the figures there? Is that what you're looking at?
13 wins, 16 draws, and 10 losses. So more draws than anyone else.
So there's 16 draws. If only they could have turned 1 or 2 of them. They tend to lose by 1 goal, is their problem. So it's draws or losing by 1 goal. So obviously the fault, you can say this about any team, though, can't you? The problem is they can't score many goals. So that sort of, football thing. Well, if we scored, we'd win.
Not wrong, though.
I'm not wrong, no.
No, that's how the game works.
Yeah. They have a guy called Jed Wallace, who last year scored 10 goals and he had 10 assists. He looks pretty neat, actually. But he could do with somebody else to help him. He always spends his life up the top of the pitch. He's a one-man band, as we once would have said. But this year, not so good. He's up there on his own and he's sort of failed a little bit. He looks a bit of a drag. He needs to go somewhere else, I think, or he needs help. He's only had 2 assists. That's not necessarily his fault, but the point thing says 2 assists, but only out of 5.3 expected assists. So he's not been great.
I don't know whether this is other competitions as well, but he's got 5 assists. Maybe that's FA Cup, but he's got some more. He's got 9 goals and 5 assists in 40 games this season, which is okay, but not great.
How many goals?
9.
9 goals. Yeah.
In 40 games. So 1 in 4, which is okay, but if he's their top scorer, which he is, then that's not exactly ideal.
No. So they're sort of, just sort of middle, rolling around, sort of, they're okay, but nothing worth watching.
Not going to trouble anyone.
No. Stoke. Well, Stoke are about as equal as you can get. They can't be more equal. Where are they in the league? I believe they're 11th, are they? Something like that.
They are 11th. 14 wins, 13 draws, and 12 losses.
Yeah,
and a goal difference of 2. So they're very
let in as many as they score. Got as many wins as draws as losses. Must be a sod to gamble on, Kieran. Lucky you don't support Stoke, otherwise you wouldn't know whether you're coming or going. Now, what they do have, though, is they've got a guy called Tyrese Campbell. He's the son of Kevin Campbell. He looked pretty good, actually. He scored 6 goals and 7 assists by December. And then he picked up a serious injury. And as soon as that injury occurred, they went from automatic promotion to middle table. They lost their player. It's simple as that. They do have one guy that looks pretty neat, though, and another one in the team. And whether they can keep hold of him, I don't know. He's a centre-back, Suter. He's an Australian from Scotland. Work that out. His brother plays for Scotland. He plays for Australia.
Right.
right?
Because
Okay.
you can't get in the Scotland team.
But this guy's big. You know, when we play Stoke and you think, my goodness, look at the size of them. He was the 6'4", and he wins 74% in the air.
Not
That
bad,
ain't bad, is it?
No.
That's pretty good. So that's your Stoke. Now we come to QPR. Now, where are QPR 12th?
QPR are 12th, 14 wins, 11 draws, 13 losses, -1 goal difference. So they're pretty similar to Stoke.
Yeah. Of course, what they did was they were doing fine and then had a crash and slightly improved again. And that's because they brought in Charlie Austin, came in and started shooting again. His sort of, he's pretty good. But they've also got a very... They've got another interesting character, a guy called Chair, Ilias Chair. Now, you won't see much on him as in sort of expected goals or passes, etc. He's interesting. He's the guy that creates the creator. He's the one that passes it around, wins the ball, passes it to the guy that passes it, that creates the goal.
Key pass, that's what they call it now.
Yeah, he's the one that takes it out of the trouble and starts it off. And he's the one that is really important to him. Without him, there would be no passes to the goal scorer. Okay.
It's very clear that from all three of these teams that the things that they don't have are goal scorers. I mean, it's so easy to say that, but they just don't. Unless you count Austin, he's got a goal every 196 minutes, so 1 in 2, which ain't bad. But apart from that, none of these teams have got someone who's scoring 1 every 2 games.
Luton, where are they in the league?
They are 13th, 14 wins, 8 draws, and 16 losses. So they don't draw as many.
Where they're not doing bad considering. Remember, these other teams, QPR, Stoke, Millwall, I mean, now Luton are the budget team that are punching well above their weight. Nathan Jones, the manager, is back again. Now, this is why when we play them, it's going to be interesting. This is the game after this afternoon's. They press really high up the pitch. You hear this again when in my little sort of brief beforehand. They press really high up the pitch. They only allow the opposition 18 seconds on average on the ball. You can see I'm really getting into all this.
You love your stats, don't you?
I love it. I love it.
You could be on Sky Sports, couldn't you? You would love it.
Yeah.
Gary Neville.
But what this means is the turnover, they've got the 3rd highest turnover in the top 40% of the pitch. This means they crash your players, you get no time, do not pass it around the back. But the interesting thing is, if you think about this, it means the way Wycombe play, they're going to run at us. And they're going to come high up the pitch. But Wycombe don't pass it around the back. We belt it. We name a player that's kept the ball for 80. You know, when do Wycombe keep the ball passing it around the back for 18 seconds?
Doesn't happen.
We don't keep the ball for 18 seconds. So we're not going to have that problem. They're not going to get the ball off of us in that last 40%, and they rely on that. But when they do get the ball in that last 40% and they get the ball off of you, it only actually ends up with 25% of those turning into shots. So running high up the pitch, trying to get the ball off the team, they don't do anything with it. This is why they are in the middle. They do have a very interesting little player. Little isn't the truth. He's 6.4 foot. He's like the Calvert-Lewin of well, of
Luton.
Walsall he was. I mean,
Wow.
Division 2, you know, and they've moved. They bought him, and his name, would you believe, is Aliga Adebayo.
Yeah.
Rings a bell. Yeah, he's one that they're going to have to try and keep hold of. Although he seems to have moved up 2 leagues, he's coped really well playing in this league. Okay.
He's got 3 goals in 10. But he's got 3 goals in 10, but he's their second top scorer. Their first has 10 goals, Collins, but then they don't have anyone else who really chips in that greatly, apart from Adebayo, who's got a decent ratio. So that's another one of their problems.
Yeah, but this guy only turned up from Walsall. You know,
Yeah,
sorry,
that's 3
Walsall.
and
Any
10.
Walsall fans out there? I'm sure we have loads out of the 40 people that watch this. Bristol City is the next one. Where are they?
They are 14th. They have won 15, drawn 4, and lost 20. So they don't draw enough.
They have been shocking recently. Recently, for quite a while. Nigel Pearson is back in charge, I believe. Is that on your info? No. I think so. You can see I've looked up tons. So let that be. I think he is. November to February, they had one of the worst runs in the championship ever. And they still don't look good.
It is Nigel Pearson.
They brought him in to change things. No, not really. They have 2 players to keep an eye on, really. They've got I've got to try and pronounce this. Noah Masengo from Monaco.
Masengo.
Yeah, Masengo.
Yeah.
He's a centre midfield. They spent a lot of money on this guy. They bought him and he was only 17, 18 years old. But they bought him from Monaco. And the other guy is a guy called Zach Veneer, who was a defender that came through their academy. And I think they're going to make a bit of money on that one. So they're your 5 teams for this week. Next week, I'll go 2 teams higher and 2 teams lower. And as we go through the next couple of weeks, we'll get into the interesting stuff. And we'll finish, of course, with a complete show on Wycombe's season, on how the bloody hell did we actually manage to stay up. Isn't that incredible? What a miracle.
It's going to happen.
Okay. Next.
There's only two things for a fullback. You're either a failed winger or a failed centre-back.
Thanks for that. I was neither.
Which were you?
Just failed.
You grew up as a centre-back, didn't you? You were a
I grew
centre-back
up
to
as a
start.
centre-back, yeah.
No one wants to be a fullback as a kid. No one wants to grow up and be a Gary Neville.
Don't want to look like him.
You've nailed that, by the way.
Do we bother looking at internationals?
Wow.
Let's have a laugh at
Poland.
Germany at least.
Germany. Yeah, that was quite funny.
Now, we talked about, what's the point of playing these teams, didn't we? Now, isn't this why we play these teams? So we can have a good laugh?
When someone eventually loses them.
Yeah. I mean, this is it, isn't it? It what it's about?
I mean, you could argue it was a bit of a freak result, and it was. And Germany missed an abundance of chances, i.e. missed a Timo.
Yep.
But then Macedonia didn't look too bad either, to be fair to them. So, I mean, maybe this is why you play these games. They are 60th in the world, so it's not like 65th. So it's not like
it didn't really matter. I didn't have to say that. I'm not putting you down.
Sorry, but
we'll check Kieran's skills later, by the way.
Yeah, you want to just suggest how wrong I am. So it's not like they're San Marino level, but then you would expect Germany to beat Macedonia every day of the week. It's like a League One team beating a Premier League team, isn't it, in the FA Cup? Something along those lines.
Yeah. Well, here you go. North Macedonia, out of North Macedonia, Moldova, Faroe Islands. Well, I'll read that. North Macedonia have won 26.2 of their qualification games.
26.2%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Moldova 13.5. Remember, they're playing each other as well, these sort of teams. They're playing. Yeah. Faroe Islands 9.5, Luxembourg 7.1, Liechtenstein 5.5, Malta 2.7, Andorra 2.7, and San Marino none. Now, the question was last week is, are these games improving? What's the point if these teams aren't improving? So I looked it up. Okay, now, would you believe? I mean, you have to ask, do I ever do the washing up and hoovering? So, no. So, I do actually, or at least I make it look like I've done things and put, you know, if you take a plate out and you see it's still got Choco crisps in it, it's because I just put things away. I don't actually wash up. Now, are these teams improving? And so you look at the number of goals and the defeat, the margins of defeat, okay, is the way to do it, really, because they're all still losing, but are they not losing by so many? So are they getting closer is the question. And the answer is no. Okay, that is the simple answer. If you look at San Marino, for instance, in 1992, they were losing on average, okay, by 4 goals a game. Now they're losing by 5 goals a game on average. If you go to, I mean, I can pick them all out. Andorra, for instance, were losing in 2000 by 2.5 goals a game. Now it's 2. It's not enough to make a blind bit of difference.
No.
If you look at well, it don't really matter really. They're all the same. In Malta, we're losing by 2.6. Now they're losing by 2.2. And if you work out how long it's going to take for them to actually catch up, is it worth the effort? And you have to say no. Moldova were losing by 1.6 in 96. In the year 2020, they're losing by 2.5. They're getting worse. I mean, none of these teams are improving.
I mean, the obvious thing to do is that they have these group stages or competitions where these teams go into it whilst the World Cups and the Euros are happening. Because you could make the argument, if they have to go into a separate group stage, then that means more games for those players. Fine. Therefore, you do it during the World Cup and Euros, so when it comes to the qualification games, it's already sorted as to which of those teams can go into it. I think that's what you do.
Yeah, I think it's obvious. Now, player racism. There was a game. It was Slavia Prague, wasn't it?
Against Rangers, yeah.
Yeah, with Gareth Bale.
Oh, yes, he did. What does he do?
Was this wasn't in the internationals, was it?
It was, wasn't it?
It was. Yeah,
wasn't
they were playing Slavia Prague. And
no,
this player...
Slavia Prague isn't a country, mate. They're playing the country that the player who was racist plays for. I can't remember who it is.
Yeah, and off the ball, Gareth Bale elbowed him, didn't he?
Yeah. Czech Republic.
And just out of the blue, he picked him out, and he went for him. He knew what he was doing. He decided he was going to get that player when the ref wasn't looking and put him on the ground. Well, Gareth, I get the point, mate, but that's violence. My opinion of you has gone downhill, I have to say. I just thought I'd sort of pop that in.
I don't think it was so much off the ball. He did have the ball and then gave him a bit of an afters kind of thing. So the bloke had passed the ball on, and then Bale went in harder than he should have done.
He knew what he was doing.
But then isn't that exact? Well, we were watching that Match Today podcast the other day when they talk about the hardest players in the Premier League. Isn't that what they did week in, week out?
Yeah, but that was different. You did that on a regular basis in those days.
Yeah, they did that to anyone. Whereas Bale had probably good reason to do this. I'm not saying it's right.
There was a blind guy.
But...
I mean, do you remember me talking about that blind guy that used to played in the finals in 1966 for England? He was completely blind without his glasses, and his job was anybody got near him, he was to take him out. And they used to have to shout at him so he knew you were English, so not to actually do anything nasty. Nobby Styles was his name.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's the truth. I mean, his job was to put you on the ground. And they used to have to shout, "It's me, don't do it," so that he didn't kick the what's it out of you, you know. That is true, actually. Now, England. England. John Stones. I think people are being extra nasty. I saw 3 dreadful pass backs over the weekend that all led to goals. That was 3 in the Premier League, and we're talking about the best players. So,
to be fair,
yesterday, shocking.
Yeah.
John Stones, at least, I think. Well, Pope can take some of the blame.
I remember seeing it, and I don't think it was Pope's fault at all. If I'm honest,
don't we love putting players down?
Oh, don't we? But Stones had plenty of time to do something better than what he did. As much as the pass could have been slightly better from Pope, Stones still had enormous amounts of time to do anything but what he did. So, I mean, I'm not saying that Pope is any good at playing football with his feet, because I don't think he's fantastic, but I don't think it was Pope's fault in that instance.
You don't. I would have given it 50-50.
I reckon 20-80.
Right, okay. And you know, England have won their last 20 qualifying games.
That's fun.
Yeah.
That's really good.
Again, backs up what we say. Okay, really quick. Chilwell or Shaw?
Shaw.
Pope or Pickford?
Pope.
Grealish or Mount or Foden?
Can I only pick one?
Unless you put a sentence, you can put a sentence with them.
Mount at centre mid and Grealish part of the front 3.
Back 3 or back 4?
4.
Gareth Southgate or
Arsene Wenger.
Would he take the job?
Probably not. Wouldn't want to stick.
Why would you change Southgate? I agree, I might add. I think Southgate is shocking. But
there's nothing to suggest in his managerial past that he should be managing the England team. He had a decent start as England manager, and of course we did get to semi-finals. However, the teams we played to get there weren't great. They really weren't. And he could win all the qualifiers he likes. It doesn't prove yourself as an England manager. Capello won an abundance of qualifiers. All the England managers win all the qualifiers. It's what you do at the major tournaments that matter. And of course, Southgate's only had 1, and in fairness, he did get to semi-final. But on that way, the hardest team he had to beat was Colombia, and we scraped that. We absolutely did.
Do you know why I would change him? Is because as he turns his pad over, finding the page, because he makes no in-game decisions or changes tactics depending on how we're getting on, and he relies on luck for the last 10 minutes rather than he should have changed that Poland game much quicker, and he didn't. He just relied on hope. and we've got a better bench than relying on hope. And also, I wonder what he's taught and said to Kane on how to play, or whether he just walked onto the pitch and did his thing. Because if Kane walks onto that pitch and does his thing and plays like Tottenham, we're in trouble. He needs to play for England in a way that suits England, not a way that suits Spurs. Kane played a Spurs match, not a number 9. And that's why I would change him, because I don't think he manages the team.
I also think we have probably the most exciting and best squad we've had since probably like our golden generation of your Gerrards, Lampards, etc. And I don't want people like Grealish and Kane and Trent to be kind of wasted in these major tournaments, which I think it would be a shame. Because I don't, you just don't get the impression anything's going to happen.
No. Next.
There's only two things for a fullback. You're either a failed winger or a failed centre-back.
Thanks for that. I was neither.
Which were you?
Just failed.
You grew up as a centre-back, didn't you? You were a
I grew up
centre-back
as
to
a
start.
centre-back, yeah.
No one wants to be a fullback as a kid. No one wants to grow up and be a Gary Neville.
Don't want to look like him.
You've nailed that, by the way.
Quick. We've got 15 minutes at most.
Blimey.
Quick. Arsenal versus Liverpool. Now, there's been the most goals and most hat-tricks between any Premier League fixture. And the last 4 at the Emirates, last 5 now at the Emirates, there's been 21 goals. There you go. Interesting fact for you. Arsenal versus Liverpool. Question. He says, turning the pages. Question. Are Liverpool back?
We can be if he plays Jota more than he plays Firmino, I think. I think just to say we're back is maybe a little bit too quick, because probably similar to Wycombe versus Blackburn, Arsenal weren't great. Arsenal really weren't very good. But in saying that, some of the goals that Liverpool scored were really good. I really liked Jota's first, obviously the cross from Trent, and Salah's second was really good. I know, I mean, it's easy just to copy what the pundits say, but I suppose it's kind of what we are now. But Fabinho at CDM just changes the whole kind of complexity of the game, doesn't he? It just means that they can't counterattack nearly as much as any of the team could. Having 2 centre back as well, it just makes it feel a lot more reliable and a lot safer. And
well, I thought I thought Liverpool dominated the whole of the football pitch. There wasn't one spot on that football pitch where Arsenal had the upper hand. There wasn't one player that dominated a Liverpool player anywhere on that football pitch. Now, just to say, there's 2 points, and then I'll let you keep going. One is, I don't think Saka and Smith, whatever his name is, Rowe or whatever it is, missing was a good enough excuse, because on that pitch, he had 2 players that earn 26 million a year, right, together. You'd got Aubameyang, who's on £375,000 a week, and he was useless.
Surely not just from Arsenal. That's going to be other sources as well, because that would be absurd if it is.
No, that's how much he earns. Look it up. Pepe gets £140,000 a week wages. Okay, that's per week. Arsenal have 8 of the highest 20.
Right.
Sorry, Arsenal and Spurs together have 8 of the highest 20 paid players in the Football League. Where are they in the Football League?
Yeah.
I would say there's a couple of people in there, businessmen, who sort these things out, who need a bit. I mean, basically, they've ended up with an Ozil, haven't they? Having a Aubameyang.
Well, I mean, since he has put pen to paper on that contract, he has not done anything, has he? You are right. It is 375, which is absolutely absurd. Like, you don't get those sort of numbers. Well, you never used to anyway. But it's a weird one because you say about Saka and Smith Rowe.
31 years old, for goodness sake. They can't sell him.
You talk about Saka and Smith Rowe, but it's like in their best 11 on paper, I don't think Saka and Smith Rowe supposedly get in, because you'd surely have your highest paid player, Aubameyang, on there. Odegaard has, his name's gone round a lot as being a potential world-class playmaker. Pepe, they spent 72 million on, so you'd want to play him instead of Saka, surely. And then Lacazette, they spent 50 million on, and was one of the best strikers in France when he played for Lyon. So I'm not even sure that those two players supposedly get in. But that's just poor on Arsenal, because those two players absolutely get in at the moment. And Saka's Arsenal's best player.
You'd have to also say that Klopp's substitution was brilliant.
I mean, supposedly it's a little bit of an obvious one, I suppose. As what was a bit less obvious was bringing off. Did he bring off Robertson?
Yeah,
he brought off Robertson for Jota and kept all four of them on there. Which is that something? Is that something for the future? Maybe. With Wijnaldum leaving,
I thought that was interesting.
Yeah,
that is what you call management. Tell Gareth what's it.
Well,
I mean, management.
If you've got Wijnaldum leaving, then there may be that space in the midfield where you do have Thiago and Fabinho next to each other. Firmino, Mane, Salah up from there, and Jota up front. Maybe that's the future. Maybe that's what he's trying to get at.
Right. And next game is, we've got to talk. I want to cover two more. We've got to also cover Chelsea, West Bromwich Albion, 2-5 on Saturday. 2-5. Do you know, it's asking for it. They gave that Chelsea manager of the month.
Yeah.
Bad news. That's Chelsea's joint worst result at Stamford Bridge ever. Why did Chelsea collapse? Now, just to say, before you say, well, they lost a player, he was sent off, you also have to say that West Brom was sort of having a couple of shots beforehand. They weren't out of the picture.
No, they were fully in it, weren't they? I think one of the things that got me was, I think Chelsea stuck to 5 at the back despite being down to 10 men, which just seems a little bit. It leaves spaces elsewhere on the pitch, doesn't it?
It does.
If you do that, because you just standardly go to a 4, you do like a 4-3-2 or something like that.
3 at the back means you're going for it, and you've got to cover more of the pitch. All your players are covering far more of the pitch. You're asking them to run another 10%. Yeah,
you're asking them to, exactly, cover a lot more space than they really can do. I thought that was it seems a little bit of an obvious one, if anything, to not do that.
I mean, you could have managed that.
Yeah, I mean, so their formation they ended with was 5-2-1-1. Yeah, the maths does that. 5-2-1-1. That's just not a formation you'd ever think of playing. Doesn't make sense.
And you see, even Allardyce, he switched. As soon as that player got sent off, he switched to a back 4, and he put on Robinson, who actually scored 1 or 2. I can't remember which. Brilliant. I mean, he knew what he was doing. Allardyce managed. The other guy didn't. You see, what bothers me about all these managers that come in, they have their system. They stick to their system, whether they win or lose. They just stick to what they know. They don't change things during a game, depending on what's going on, and nor do they change things from game to game, depending on who they're playing. But footballers should be better than that. They should be better than that. And if West Bromwich Albion can manage to change formation, to change a different style on that football pitch, surely Chelsea should.
I mean, you would have thought that players, kind of instantaneously should be able to say, yes, we can play in a back four, because that's what they've pretty much done their whole lives. Back five is just a thing to differentiate yourselves and is a bit unique. Whereas a back four, you should be used to it.
Yeah.
And so why they didn't just do that, I don't have a clue. Because they didn't even have to make a sub at that point. They could have just had James, Azpilicueta, Zuma and Alonso as the back four. Would have been absolutely fine.
Okay. Well, it's an interesting question for Allardyce afterwards. He said, I'm not going to stay at West Bromwich Albion just to mess about if we go down. I want to stay to seriously have a go. In other words, he's telling West Bromwich Albion he'll be there next year. If you seriously want to come back up, I'm going to give it a go. But if you don't, if you're just going to mess around now, I'm out. And that's what he was basically saying. Okay, Kieran, we'll go on. We're gonna start a little quizzy for Kieran. Let's see how he gets on. And I'd like you at home to see how you get on against Kieran. It's Kieran against the fans.
What a way of putting it.
There's only two things for a fullback. You're either a failed winger or a failed centre-back.
Thanks for that. I was neither.
Which were you?
Just failed.
You grew up as a centre-back, didn't you? You were a
I grew
centre-back
up
to
as a
start.
centre-back, yeah.
No one wants to be a fullback as a kid. No one wants to grow up and be a Gary Neville.
Don't want to look like him.
You've nailed that, by the way.
Okay, we'll do 10 questions. 10 questions a week. All right. Now I've got to find it. So,
Do you want me to keep the fans entertained for a few minutes?
yeah. Do a song or something. Sing a song.
I don't particularly want to embarrass myself that much.
Do the wasting time song. No, here we go.
Thank goodness for that.
The famous Wycombe Wanderers wasting time song. Okay. Now, we're going to give Kieran the easy one to start with because he should know this. Stadiums. Which club stadium became the first all-seater venue in English football in 1981? Was it Chelsea, Wolves, or Coventry?
It was Coventry.
You're correct. Coventry City. Which of these stadiums have not hosted an England international in the 21st century? Was it Pride Park, Derby, Portman Road, Ipswich, or Stamford Bridge, Chelsea?
Stamford Bridge must have done. Ipswich or Derby? I feel like they would have done one at Derby, so I'm going to say Ipswich.
Ipswich. Incorrect. England. The answer was Chelsea.
No, it wasn't.
It was. What do you mean it wasn't?
It just seems as though they should have done. Oh well.
So that's well, I should have had a bit of paper to say what correct or wrong. Why that? No. Right. One. Okay. Question 3. Oh dear, this is more than 47,500 men are diagnosed. Oh my goodness. This is a not fun question.
Sounds
okay,
dark.
more than 47,000. I'll go into my voice. More than 47,500 men are diagnosed with prostate cancer every year in the UK. Which of these stadiums would be big enough to seat them all?
What sort of question is that?
I didn't see this question beforehand. This is dreadful. Ibrox, Villa Park, or Elland Road?
Ibrox.
I think it's trying to make a point of just how many men suffer from this.
Yeah.
And you're correct. That's pretty. That's a lot, you know.
That's a lot of people.
I have to keep an eye. What's the name of that manager that's younger than me, and I just can't believe it?
Oh, Tony Mowbray.
Tony, can I just say, everybody, does Tony Mowbray, does he look younger than me? Because if he does, I would be really concerned. But he is. He was born, can I just say, he was born, I think it was something like about 6 months after me. No, I'm younger than Tony Mowbray.
Are we trying to prove the point that you look really young or that Tony Mowbray looks really old?
Well, I think I look younger than I am. If I just stood up, you wouldn't realise that. You would think, bloody hell, on the other hand, he's really fat.
We'll go,
But I think he's got more to worry about than me.
Wow. I hope he doesn't watch this.
I don't think he watches it. Which venue, if Tony, can I just say, mate, I'm not trying to be nasty. Okay, which venue has hosted the most European Cup finals? Is it Wembley, Olympiastadion, the Munich, Olympiastadion?
The Allianz Arena? The one in Bayern Munich Stadium.
It's Munich. Stadion. Olympia Stadion.
We'll go to the Olympic Stadium in Munich. We'll say that one.
All right. And Stadio Olimpico in Rome. So which has hosted the most European Cup finals?
It's either Rome or Wembley. I'm going to say Rome.
Incorrect.
Is it Wembley?
It was London. It was London.
Oh, I thought Rome had won recently.
2-2. Turkish side Bursaspor Stadium is designed to resemble which animal? Is it a turtle, a whale, or a crocodile? I presume it's going to be in sort of like, 10 questions and about something else and about something else. Obviously, we're on stadiums here.
You can't represent a crocodile as a stadium. Whale, I don't know why you would. I'm going to go turtle.
Turtle.
Yeah.
Final answer.
Incorrect.
Crocodile.
Why? Stupid question.
The first indoor World Cup match took place at which? The first indoor World Cup match took place at which tournament? USA 94, Japan Korea 2002, or Germany 2006?
Japan Korea, because they would have had the technology at that point to do that. I don't feel like they would have done it at the US.
You're wrong. US did, mate. You are not doing that. 2-4.
Why don't I know? Why don't I know any of these?
Which club were the first to play Premier League football at 2 different home stadiums? Was it Bolton Wanderers, Middlesbrough, or Wimbledon?
Oh, flipping heck. Bolton, Middlesbrough, or Wimbledon? Don't feel like Wimbledon would have done. I'm going Middlesbrough.
You're correct.
Yeah.
Hey. 3-4. He's on his way back. Which are the only current FA Cup? Oh dear. Which are the only current? No comments. Which are the only current FA Women's Super League club to regularly play at the same stadium as their men's team?
Oh, I should know this.
West Ham, Reading, or Bristol City?
All right, I may not know this.
You wanted Arsenal, Chelsea, and the other one.
Yeah.
Reading, yeah.
I don't feel like West Ham do. I could see Reading.
You're correct.
Yeah.
Oh, he's 4-4. 4-4. Right, which Scottish club stadium was once affectionately dubbed the Spaghettiad? Hamilton, Livingston, or Wraith Rovers? How are you supposed to know that, Kieran?
Livingston.
You're correct.
Yes.
Lucky boy.
Man, I'm positive at the moment.
Right. The home ground of Slovakian amateur side TJ Tatran Kiani Balog boasts which unusual feature?
Hey.
It has a railway running through it. It has an ancient tree in one penalty area. It floats on a lake.
I feel like I've seen this. There's definitely a stadium that has a railway running through it. I'm going to go with that. I've seen that in some weird country.
See, I would have gone for it floats on a lake. But
That
you're
could've-
correct. You're
Yes.
correct. A railway runs through it. Okay.
6-4, I'll take that.
Yeah. And it doesn't look like the next in round 2, it's not about stadiums. You'll be pleased to
Thank
know.
goodness for that.
So, thank you, everybody. We've come to an end there. Kieran got 6 correct. Did you do any better than Kieran? There are no prizes, so it's probably not worth bothering mentioning it. Just feel happy, and it's
Prizes.
Easter Monday, and go and buy yourself an egg.
The prize is to subscribe to MJT.
Yeah,
Wycombe Wanderers.
subscribe to MJ2 and listen every week, and that's your prize, and that should be good enough. Come on, Wycombe, this afternoon. Let's get our own back on Rotherham, and thanks for joining us. And of course, this is going out at 6. Problem is, so it's the after the game one going out roughly at 6. So I don't know which one's going to be first. I really should put this one out first, shouldn't I?
Probably.
I might
That makes
out
sense.
earlier. We'll see. Okay, thank you, everybody, and goodbye. Say bye-bye.
Bye.